Meeting to order. If you would call the roll, please. Here. Present.
Here.
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 James.
Here.
Davis.
Here. Okay, we're all here. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I would like to ask you to stand and we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, that is the symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures. Thank you. Okay. First item on new business. Oh, approval of the minutes.
Recommendation that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve last month's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, new business, discussion and approval of the 2025 calendar regular session. Miss Lovelady. Okay.
He's working on it. So in your packets, you had two options for the calendar schedule. They changed the council meeting again. They're going back to the first and third day of the month. So that kind of changed for us as well. So the first option would be the first Monday of each month. It would be a 2-week wait for applications from when they come to Kinsey to when they go to city council. It would give the department 1 week to train all the documents. And then the September meeting would fall on the second Monday because Labor Day is that first week. So it would be a 1 week wait for that month. So it makes sense. And then option 2 is the second Monday of the month. It'd be 1 week wait for city council, except for in April, July, and November. It would be a 2 week wait for the holidays and those months are like 5 months, so kind of put that off. And then it would only give me 4 hours a day after the meeting to train all the documents. So potential issues with holidays, unexpected meetings, illnesses, it would end up being a few weeks wait if a situation like that. Those are
Comments, questions? Thoughts?
I like the idea of having, or if there's anybody who's needing to go to the city council, I like the shorter amount of time instead of the longer amount. Yeah. So I would say the second week of the month would be my personal preference,
Just really doesn't give the department much time to
right?
get things done.
that is how it was previously. And like for this meeting, whatever's approved, I'll turn it on.
So you're not very.
I told Kelly we're gonna shut my door and ignore everything. I could get everything in, because Miss Scopes is really strict about the deadline for that, so.
Okay.
And it used to be end of day Wednesday, and so we at least had 2 days to get it in, because now we have 4 business hours. So if we miss that 4 window, then it's an extra week. When we miss that last one, we have to wait an extra week and for 3 weeks. So it's great as long as everything goes perfectly.
Yeah.
So we're good with either.
Is there any way that we can ask the city council to postpone to Wednesday again?
So the reason we changed it is because the mayor wanted to be able to start approving the agendas. So Ms. Smokes has to have the agenda done sooner so it can get approved. And then make any changes that may be needed and make it posted in the 3-day time period that it would be posted.
You're recommending the first Monday?
I was recommending the second Monday, but
Like we had.
yeah. But now that it's a 4-hour window that they have, and if the city could kind of move it to Wednesday, it would be better, but I don't know.
You guys don't have a preference?
No, I mean, whatever you guys decide, we'll make it work.
Long as y'all have enough time to do what you need to do.
That's what I'm thinking.
And if,
We had like 3 or 4 months where we had 5, 6 applications.
So what would you recommend? What would work best for you?
I would recommend the
Option
2-week wait. Because in the end, they would only be waiting 2 weeks maximum unless for some reason city council reschedules something. Whereas for April, July, November, there's gonna be definite 3-week wait. And then if for any possible reason we don't make that deadline, they're also gonna have to wait for 3 weeks.
Option one. Be my choice. Okay. Do we need a vote on that?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to have it be on the first option.
Okay,
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Okay, so we will go with option one. The next year, starting January 6th. Next, new item of business. Recommendation to amend to the sign ordinance.
So, this is something we actually started working on last year after the last billboard had done. And kind of, by the way, signs everything. I mean, I think we did what here for the open change. So we had a lot going on, but so we're bringing it now for y'all's recommendation. If there's anything that you think needs added or taken out, or something to be more specific. But kind of just overall, what we added to the ordinance was defining a billboard. And the amendment requested that it would basically not allow for variances for billboards. So they wouldn't be able to come apply for variance, they wouldn't be able to get special permission from the state council either. So the additions were the definition of a billboard, specifications for sign sizes and locations, stricter maintenance, no exceptions for off-premises advertisement or signage. And then what we removed from the ordinance was permitting for off-premises signs, and then exceptions or special permits for off-premises advertising or signs. If you have any questions, comments, we'll take those recommendations and then take it out to city council.
The only thing that I saw, Laura, was on section 3-47, the exception, midway down, it says the city council finds, and it should be if the city council finds.
I will fix that. And then also, so whatever is in green is what would be added, and whatever is in red, we would take out. Also. I'll fix that. Thanks, city council.
I move that we approve. Oh, I need to do.
So
I second the motion.
I have a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. So item C, public hearing for recommendation for East Elm Street property boundary concerns. This is Lovelady and Ms. McClellan. I will entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we're now in public hearing. Now we're gonna do this if anyone wants to speak. Ms. Lovelady's gonna speak first, and then anyone who would like to speak needs to come to the podium, state your name, be sworn in. And we'll give you a couple minutes to talk. Okay?
So, as we kind of discussed last week, the property line boundary issue with East Elm Street was brought to our attention back in August. There was one property owner who was interested in purchasing the land where he wanted to build. The city council initially agreed to sell that land, but they wanted to know how many more properties along that street had the same. So I did send out 18 certified letters to all the property owners from the West End of the world, and I did receive all the receipts, so I believe all the property owners received it. And then I also posted it in the, Kitchen and Attorney, 11. So this is from the survey that we have done. We just had them go and pin where the city property line boundary goes to the, private property line. As you can see, they are pretty far back. This is a mobile picture, but, so East Elm and this soil is over here, and this is going across the property line. Elm is over here, this one. This one here. Down there, so this is closer to right. And then this one, is off of East Elgin.
Ms. Lovely, I don't know if everyone, what happened is that street was platted as a 60-foot right of way. But then the street was only built as a 30-foot street from curb to curb. So the city's property is actually, another 15 feet inside that curb line for every, correct?
It varies,
As it went down that street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the gist of it, just so.
So this is kind of showing out. So the survey showed, I actually had a property owner bringing a survey today that showed it was 40-foot platted road
Okay.
and only developed as 22 feet. So for his property, it was 29 feet that his property was set back. Or his property line started. So his house is actually built partially into the right of way also. So I'm guessing that there may be, when they go and do the actual survey, there may be more. That we can see on an actual map. So, just from what we had pinned, we could see that there were structured carports, fences on city property. Setbacks for houses usually go 20 foot from the front property line back, and in some cases it's 2 feet or they're overbuilt. So the recommendation for us at this time would be for the city to vacate that, and it would go to those individual property owners, those portions, except for 5 feet from the curb line to the new property. That would allow us to keep our water meters, and if we needed to move things, we would do that move for free. And then after that, they would be responsible for the meter to their property, and then they would still be required to move fencing or carports or apply for easements where the structures would still be on that 5-foot city property. That is required by ordinance. We did have one community member offer to help pay for the vacation survey, which we've been quoted at right now for $1,500 to $2,000. And then it would just have to be signed by all the property owners involved and then filed with the county for tax. So that is our recommendation at this time.
Now Elb is already paved and curbed and guttered,
Yes,
so as it is, it stands.
yes,
And you're wanting to vacate from the, you want to keep 5 feet from the curb to the house. And then they have the rest of the property.
yes,
Do you, and you have utilities in that 5 feet?
yes, that's where our water meters are located, for service. So, and they're all basic, I don't think we have to move very many, I talked with our utility superintendent. And he said they wouldn't have an issue moving it, it's pretty easy, I guess, to just move those meters a little bit into our 5 feet area. But that was the best solution we could think of, to where nobody was having to pay for appraisals, pay for surveys, pay for the land. And we could kind of correct the issue that's going on.
Could the property owners not give you an easement, give the city an easement and let them stay there?
So easements are not permanent, because at any time the city could still go back and have them remove whatever was there. And the city is not planning to at this time develop on any portion of that land. Just think it'd be better to.
Because they've acted all this time that from that curb to their house is their property. Even though your water system is right there,
Well,
inside that, right? You're telling me your water system's in there
yes,
and they've been acting like that's their property.
well, the line is actually in the road, and so it's just the meters for the individual properties that are in that 5 foot.
Okay,
Or
why can't we do a easement and leave it
Yeah.
alone and let them live like they've been living for the past umpteen jillion years? Yeah, you know,
So easements are.
Well, you vacate it, then it becomes theirs.
I'm not asking to vacate it.
You know, if you vacate, the city would become the property owner's property.
Right, and then the city has a easement to that.
Well,
It's
we
gonna
would
be
still
in
own
the
the
easement.
5 feet.
Yeah, it would be in that 5 feet.
I'm telling you, I'm not even wanting you to have the 5 feet.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, I wanted to keep it just like it is.
So the 5 feet is typical across most of the city. That's what we have as a setback, is 5 feet
From the curb
from the curb.
and in somebody's yard. You have a 5 feet setback in everybody's yard.
Yes, typically it's 5 feet from the curb and 5 feet belongs to the city, and then their property line starts at 5 feet.
5 feet from the curb.
Yes,
Okay,
is typical.
and so everything, and you usually have water meters in those 5 feet spaces.
Yes.
So if we do that, then if we give them, okay, we say, okay, we're gonna keep 5 feet. I understand the water meter thing, but then I'm not sure I want them to have to move their buildings and their fences and their.
So
Tree.
the easements and those were deniable city council, they would have to move.
But I think Beverly is saying flip it. You go and vacate the property, so it is the owners of the property, and they give the city an easement for the water meters.
That's what I want to do.
Yes, that's what she's suggesting.
Yeah, that's what I
it's
want
not-
to do, but you're telling me that all across the town, everybody had in a yard, their 5 feet in their yard belongs to the city.
That's correct, though.
Yes.
So it's not 5 feet of their yard. Their setback, their front property is 5 feet from the curb. So like, they don't own the sidewalks, those are city sidewalks.
Yeah.
Their
And
property
even if
starts
there's no
behind us.
sidewalk.
They still.
And
Still
the
so-
city still owns it.
And so like if we had to, let's say, do like a federal grant to redo Elb, and they said, well, you have to bring it to ADA compliance and put in sidewalks. If the city does not own those 5 feet, we cannot bring that road into ADA compliance and we cannot get federal grant to build roads. So that's why that's why the city has those setbacks. The property owner, we own about 5 feet from the inside of the curb. Usually. Some cases, obviously, we own 20 or 30 feet from the inside of the curb. But that's usually why we try to keep those 5 feet.
But if the sidewalks belong to the city and there's any damage, isn't it the property owner's responsibility to repair
Yes.
that instead of the city?
Yeah, so the ordinance we have just state that property owner is responsible
Yeah.
from the middle of the road to the middle of the alleyway around the corners. You know, if you have an alley and a side, whatever you have.
So how many fences, how many sheds,
Ports.
carports and stuff do we have to move if this goes through?
So it would be only if they were still overbuilt into that 5 feet that they would need to apply for an easement.
You're talking about coming through here so that we can approve them to keep what they have there after all this happens?
So easement
They don't have
would
to move
go
anything?
directly to city council. Well, and it would only be with over 5 feet, right?
Yeah, so if easements that are under 5 feet can be approved through the city manager. Easements that are over 5 feet have to go through city council for approval. So it would depend on the size of the easement. And if it's 5 feet, most would probably go through our city manager.
Potentially, there is a safety concern when we're blocking 5 feet of where pedestrian traffic. Where as normally they have that 5 feet for walking, they're now walking the road.
But they have been walking in the road all these years, right?
In some cases, yes.
No sidewalks.
There's no sidewalks on that.
Let's bring this one.
Yeah.
So the residents can go and get an easement from us, but you don't want them to go get an easement, the city to get an easement.
So for the vacation, if we vacated the entire part and didn't keep that 5 feet, I'm not sure if our utilities would be on board with vacating their meters.
Is that because there's a problem that is their property and then the city would have to go on and if it did some damage, it could be a lawsuit or what? Why is that an issue?
So we would have to notify them anytime we have to work on them. And you know, so that causes issues with time if there's a leak. We have to read the meters, they read them every week, so. It's just not really,
Right,
Yeah.
and we don't allow people to build to the curb,
No, we don't allow them to build to the curb.
so that's why. we have to-
But they weren't built to the curb.
No,
Nobody built to
no,
the
but
curb.
that's why they want to get that back.
so there are some properties where their fences are built up to the curb line. So those are the ones that they would have to either apply for the easement or move the fence back. But
There's no like cement cars or driveways. I know there's a red.
so driveway is a little different, it would kind of fall into that sidewalk. Where if it's there, it just would have to be replaced, to the same level. But driveways are kind of different because most properties have driveways.
So using that picture in the bottom right, those trees would have to come out and probably what, 5 feet of that fence? Is that what you're saying? Just on that one example?
I think these are worst case examples.
But
Yeah, the trees are further.
So this is the worst case example, and if we only vacate 5 feet. It won't be where that red flag is.
But it will have to be that part of the extension.
Yeah, it might get that fence.
will you go back to the first slide?
I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I mean like to the item
Go back.
or item. Okay, so just for example, this property right here, they have almost 36 feet from their property line to the curb. This one has 29. So we would vacate 24 feet, keep 5 feet. And in this example, keep, 30, vacate 32 and keep 5. So we would just be keeping the 5 feet from the curb across all the property. And the individual property owners would get their portion of their property.
So you're saying we could approve the vacation of that additional amount, keep 5 feet, and then the residents that would be affected by that would come before us and the city council and say, hey, can I keep my fence and my carport? Is that what you're saying? That's the process to make this work?
Yes, that would be the.
And that would be a cost to the citizen to do that?
So the vacation is the least costly option for relieving the property to them. Easements, the only cost if it was to be approved would be for them to file it with the county clerk's office.
As long as we already had a survey.
Oh, yes, they do have to have a survey, but would we be able to do the vacation?
If they, so that'd be another thing you're recommending is who's paying, is the city gonna pay? Essentially donate the land, we don't, we never have before, but that would be something you put in there. Is the city going to pay for this, or would the property owners need to get together? And pay for vacation, and if they did that, could they put the easements on that vacation so they could use one document?
So what you're saying, if the city normally vacates the property, they normally don't pay for a survey. But we're looking at how many surveys from how many individuals, and
Right.
surveys are expensive.
So
And
that-
it's not their fault.
So that would be up to you guys. You can request that the city pay for the survey.
Or recommend?
So that's the precedent. The city's never done that before. Usually the landowners who are getting the free property are the ones that put the application in and do pay for the survey to cover the cost of getting that property.
I think though that this is a special circumstance because every single one of the residents thought that that property was theirs.
And that's
Mhm.
understandable. The budget that P and Z has for this will be about 1/3 of its budget to pay for the survey. So it's something we can definitely do. It's just the city doesn't put money aside to cover these types of expenses. It usually does fall on the property owners who have overbuilt.
But it wasn't their fault to begin with.
That's the thing.
That's the whole catch.
Please don't do it. Yeah, so that's gonna be what you guys would like us to do. So in most cases, the city would say, get an easement or we'll make you move it, but since it is such a big section of land, we're bringing it to you for special consideration.
Could we say that we're gonna vacate or put it in the vacate? And can we, as the P and Z, make a recommendation to the city that we don't have them move any of their structures because it wasn't their fault?
I would probably have to check with the lawyer on that one, because that is without our ordinance does say they need an easement to allow their structures on city property, because we make anybody else in the city who has their structure on city property move it or have an easement.
Somehow that it's a special circumstance, and I mean, this is not.
And that's definitely why we have to ask the lawyer. That one I really am not sure of.
But from what I'm understanding, because it's 5 feet, it doesn't go to the city council. It goes directly to the city manager.
Yeah, if
to
we do
approve,
the vacation and their easement request under 5 feet, it can be approved by city manager
Which
without.
all of
going
them
anywhere else.
should be under 5 feet.
Right, if
Yes.
we're only vacating that.
But you are saying, let me clarify this. 'Cause
Yeah.
each property owner would have to do a survey. Or the city could do the survey and just vacate all the property at once.
Correct.
Yes, so
Wait, I asked you
if we did the vacation.
Yes.
So if we did a complete vacation where we kept 0 things, then yes. If we did a vacation with everything but 5 feet and they still were up to 5 feet on the curb, then they would have to do additional easements.
Okay,
Which the easements, like I said.
right,
the-
but I'm saying the survey only. If the city does, can the city do the survey and just vacate the property without the property owners having to do a survey themselves?
Later on,
Potentially, it would depend what we can get the surveyor to include. He may include, because what we use is the surveyor certificates that say, this is how far the encroachment is, this is what they need the easement for. So if he would be willing to do that as part of it,
Well, I was just talking about the vacation part first.
correct.
The city will pay for the survey that vacates all that property.
That would be a
Yes.
recommendation, city council would have to approve that the city
Okay.
do that expense.
and then I would have another recommendation that the city pay for any individual person whose property is being encroached onto that to come through. That I know is probably way out of the norm. But these people didn't ask for it. And is there any way that the city would pay for each individual survey that had to be done so they could get their whatever that word is, I've lost my mind, but the encroachment. So they can have that.
That would be 100% up to city council. Most cases, probably not. As of this is a special case. That being said, all the surveys when I bought the property showed that wasn't their property, and I understand it's a special circumstance. But they still overbuilt, so it does set a bad precedent for the city to pay all of those fees when we don't do it for anybody else in the city, when we do see 5, 6, 7 easements.
So anything that's gonna be encroached, they're gonna have to, every property owner is gonna have to pay their own survey.
If they have to do an easement and we don't, they keep the whole thing, yes. If any easements are.
I just want them to understand.
Oh, no,
You will,
100%.
you will do the whole thing to get that there, but there's gonna be a lot of encroachments. We know. And every one of them is gonna have to put their own bill for that survey to get that okay.
Let's let a few of our residents speak before we continue our discussion. If anyone would like to step up and be sworn in, state your name, raise your right hand. She's going to swear you in.
State your name, please.
Tommy Eklund.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will testify truthfully here on?
Okay.
Spot right here is my property, right here. When I moved in there, we built the house like in 1958. It was just a dirt road. The city plotted all of this. They put in, they had engineers come in and put in the sewer lines, the alleys, the roads, the telephone poles. I had a telephone post right in the very front of my yard. So I assumed that the telephone post was my boundary lines. So when I built my fence, my front yard fence, I dropped back 10 feet so I could park 2 cars in front of my house. Well, when they decided to widen to pave the road, they said, no, it's 2 more foot. So I had to tear down my fence and then they put in the curb and gutter. And so that was fine. Now they tell me there's 8 more foot that actually belongs to the city there instead of 5. Well, on my deed, it says I have 2 25 by 150 foot lots. And if you come back down here from Kilgore all the way to here, the road is parallel. But when it gets to here, it starts this here starts slanting over this way instead of coming straight. It'd be right about here if it kept going straight. This side would come take this whole building off here if it had run straight. But when they built these storage buildings afterwards, they put reflectors there to keep people from running into it. And when they come in and put the curb in, they put it all of this angles over. But if you're coming from Kilgore this way and you look at both them curbs going straight, this street would be about 15 foot over here, and this would be about 15 foot over to keep it all straight, the street. And you had city engineers that done all of this, and you had all different engineers.
Pardon?
The TV wiggles when you touch it.
Oh.
If you just right.
Yeah.
You're good. I'm not falling yet.
I'm down.
Yes. According to my survey, or my deed, I have 2 25 by 150 foot lots. But when I dropped my property line back 10 foot, and then I gave them another 2 foot when they put the curb and gutter in. Now they're saying they need 8 more foot. That means I've got 2 lots that's 25 by 130. Either that, or if you come from the city's boundary lines on the front and go back 150 foot, then that means that whole valley is on my property. So now y'all get to move the sewer lines and the gas meters. I mean, I know there's been a bunch of different engineers involved, but if you look from Globe all the way to here, it's parallel until it gets here, and both sides of the street starts angling over. From here to here, it angles back about 15 foot from this end to this end. And you can see how it takes us down here to go around them gubbins there.
Mr. Heflin, is this the first time you've heard about this?
Yes, sir. Well, I say it first time, when they come to widen the road, they said that they needed 2 more foot, I done gave them 10 foot from the telephone pole. So I done gave 10 foot, and then they said they needed 2 more foot to put the curb and gutter in, and so I assumed that being the city and the engineers put that in, that's where the boundary line was. I mean, it makes sense to me that that'd be the boundary line.
And when you purchased the lot, there was a survey done?
Yeah, and I had it, when I built my fences, I had Bob Pendergrass survey the property so I could get my fences in the correct place. But I couldn't find my survey, that was in the early 60s.
They have been there a long time. Yeah, they've been there a long.
Yes, sir.
We built my house in 58.
Yeah, our house is old too.
Mr.
Okay.
Moyer has a comment.
So I think a lot of it got confused. So, and this might, and it might not go over very well either, but if we vacate all but 5 feet, that is one survey for us to do, of which we can pay for. Anything within that 5 feet, they can apply for an easement, which would come with me, and I can approve, and it does not have to go to city council.
Can they
In my-
apply to you without a survey?
Why
Yeah.
can they not, why can they not use the survey that you're going to be creating for the whole thing?
So it has to specifically say the easements. So that's just how our easement and policies are set up. So they get certificates from a surveyor who says, yeah, this is your exact size, your easement, and this is the exact size we're approving. Versus saying, well, we think it's about 4 feet, it has to be an exact. So if
They do
we
that.
put it on the vacation, that's one thing, which he may or may not do. But we have to have something, a surveyor and a stamp saying this is the exact size of that easement.
Could they do that when they do the survey?
That's what something you can ask. It'll increase if you're trying to turn it into easements and vacations. But we're still coming looking for a recommendation of what you guys would like us to do on that.
My recommendation, this is just me speaking out of turn, I guess, is, yeah, let the city do that. Easement, vacate it, except for 5 feet. When they do the survey, which they've got to do, they notify and write on each one of those what's vacated. I don't know, being in real estate, I don't know if that's gonna help you on your real estate. Because when you go to sell that property or transfer that property, it's what she's saying, it needs to be attached to your property,
To the
and
survey.
it's not. It's not, so you would have to have that easement attached to it. But from what I'm gathering, they can tell you on that survey, but I'm not sure it's gonna help you in the long run when you transfer that property.
The new owner would just apply for an easement in the process of the.
Survey.
But they would have to have a survey, and so once you did that, they would have to have a survey. I don't know, can they live like that without an easement?
I just think right now.
Is the city gonna go out and violate everybody?
Yeah.
This is what we're asking.
Yeah, are you gonna go out and tag everybody because they're now violating?
So that'll be up to city council. So the fact is, when another person wanted to do that, we told them no. They rather needed to have an easement or they needed to buy their property. And so the city council wanted us to make sure it was fair on that one individual who attempted to get the correct permits. So city council can say, hey, we're gonna ignore ordinance and allow this without easements, but that does open the door up for other people.
Correct.
So that is 100% of the city council on how they would like to direct us to move forward.
But there are some, when there's property is sold, that has come before the council in the past, because there is that easement in that they have to have city approval for that easement before they can sell that property. And that has been going on for a long time.
Correct.
So
So-
there shouldn't be any difference in this and what has been done in the past either.
This one is just, it's been caught. The other ones, we didn't know it was encroaching until the survey came out and that they applied for that easement. This one unfortunately, because the one property owner applied for that, and we realized, hey, everybody's 15, 30 feet overbuilt. That's why this has come before us. We didn't go out going, oh, I think they're overbuilt. Unfortunately, it came to council and we feel.
Any other residents that would like to get up and speak?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will testify the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So. We live on that. Right here. Our fence is 5 feet. We refinanced our house during COVID. We applied for these because they want us to remove our fence. We applied for these, but is that gonna be still valid? The city council did give us the easement.
So yes, your easement would still be valid. The only thing that may change is if it's part of the vacated portion.
Yeah, no, I still got a driveway area.
Yeah,
there
so
with
if
a
it's,
meter outside of my fence.
what our recommendation is to vacate all for the 5 feet. If you already have an easement, you're covered with it. That is. It's covered.
I'm at the very end of it, so I know it narrows just a little.
Anyone else? Any other discussion? Are we going to entertain a motion to either recommend the city's?
Yes,
Okay.
we would like some recommendation to take forward to city council. We thought this was bigger than just one employee's opinion.
And the city pays for the
City will take care of it.
survey.
And will it also state in it, if they're gonna get their approval for the structure that's built, so they don't have to move anything? I'm sure that's.
I don't think there's any structures that are within that 5
Well, I'm
foot.
talking fence.
There are some.
Fences.
Well, I meant houses, sir.
Yeah, no houses, with the vacation of the 5 feet.
Fences, carports.
And yeah, you guys can recommend anything and then city council can accept it all, choose to change it, whatever's their final decision ends up being.
Okay, well, I will entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So make that motion.
I have a motion and a second to go out of public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, we're back in regular session, so I will entertain a motion to approve or deny the city's recommendation to vacate that property.
Well, I want to make the motion that the city vacate everything except the 5 feet from the curb. And that the city will pay for that survey. And
Motion,
Second,
and I have a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Bennett,
yes,
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Ms. Buckler,
Yes,
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Okay, so we made our recommendation. Now the process goes to the city council. Then they make the final decision on the recommendation. But I'm sure staff will try to keep everyone informed on
Yes.
what's going on. So,
And that decision will be done in a public meeting. It won't be a public hearing, but it'll be a public meeting where everything's been discussed.
okay, so thank you. So, and if that's what you came tonight for, we still have several other things. You are welcome to head home. I think it was a good deal.
Is this what you're?
You can take this. Yeah.
come back. Yeah, a minute.
We still have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item of business is a public hearing for resolution PC 2024-2025-33. A resolution providing for a zone change from R1 to an M2 at a property known as Industrial Park, submitted by the city of Portales. So Mrs. Lovelady's gonna speak first. Oh, I will entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion, and a second to go into public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we're now in public hearings. Lady can go over her findings of fact.
So the thing with college, basically, we are applying for the zoning to bring our property into compliance. Currently, at the industrial park, we do house our mechanic shops, our transportation and equipment yard, and then there's multiple warehouses, for storage. Could we ask you to think that we're real hard here? So this zone change is to help bring the property into compliance, and the minimum zone for that would be an M1 light manufacturing. We asked for an M2, but the M1 would cover what we already have there. Can we go to the next one, sis? So I published the public hearing in the Eastern New Mexico News on 11/24, and then I sent 41 certified letters to property owners. It was a very big area, so it's the most letters I've ever sent for an application. We had two formally formal protests turned in before the deadline. But I do have some statements that were turned in for the protests. And then from the 6 letters sent to public utilities, we had 0 for or against the proposal. And I'll go ahead and read the protest letters that were turned in. I'm gonna leave out any major addresses. This property owner stated, I live adjacent to the property of the proposed zone change. I've lived at this property for about 4.5 years. I was attracted to purchase this property with the recreational attributes of the adjacent property and paid a premium for this location. I knew that the adjacent property was zoned as single-family residential and felt secure that property values would remain stable with residential traffic only. I was on the Community Development Corporation Board when the city purchased the property in question, and remember that one of the reasons given of that purchase was to expand recreational resources, not to increase the industrial park. The Portales Development Corporation and Roosevelt County Community Development Corp has hundreds of acres for industrial development to the southwest of this property near the airport. For the reasons above, I'm opposed to the zone change. Portales needs more recreational opportunities while it has plenty of designated industrial property. I believe this zone change will harm property values for me and my neighbors. Another one came in. Dear members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, I'm writing to express my strong opposition to the proposed zoning change from residential to industrial in the area adjacent to the Portales Country Club. As a board member of the Portales Country Club and a property owner in the same vicinity, I believe that the zoning change would have a detrimental impact on our country club. The proposed industrial development would disrupt the peaceful residential nature of the area. The country club is an integral part of the community, serving as a tranquil retreat for local families and golfers. Changing the zoning would introduce traffic congestion, noise, and air pollution, which would negatively affect the health and well-being of our members and visitors alike. Additionally, the aesthetic and recreational value of the country club and surrounding residential areas could be severely compromised by the intrusion of industrial structures and operations. The peaceful green spaces that make this area desirable for residents and visitors would be replaced with the visual and environmental burdens associated with industrial development. Many of us have chosen to live in this area because of its residential charm and proximity to recreational spaces. The introduction of industrial zoning could devalue our properties, making it harder for homeowners to sell or maintain their home. This change also runs counter to the community's broader goals of preserving green spaces, maintaining the integrity of residential areas. I ask that you take into account the significant impact the zoning change would have on our community, and I urge you to reject the proposal to rezone the area from residential to industrial. Please consider the long-term consequences for our quality of life, local economy, and the environment. Thank you for your time and consideration of this matter. I'm confident that with your leadership, our community will continue to thrive as a residential and recreational haven for all who live. Another letter stated, I'm writing to formally protest the proposed rezoning of the area south of the Floyd Highway and east of the golf course from residential to industrial. As a property owner in this region, I believe this change would have serious and negative consequences for the community, our quality of life, and the environment. First and foremost, the transition from residential to industrial zoning will significantly alter the character of our neighborhood. The area is home to many family, children, and elderly residents who value the safety, peace, and accessibility that a residential environment provides. The introduction of industrial activity, with its potential for increased traffic, noise, air pollution, and light pollution, will disrupt the peaceful atmosphere and these residents have enjoyed. This large area is the only area inside the city limits that has the opportunity for future residential growth. It is the perfect location for additional subdivisions surrounded by recreational facilities such as the softball complex, walking track, and the Patel Country Club. Furthermore, there are valid concerns about the environmental impact of industrial development in this area. The increased emissions, waste, and risk of hazardous materials would pose a direct threat to the health of local residents, particularly those with pre-existing respiratory conditions, children, and the elderly. The industrial development may also harm local wildlife and further reduce green spaces, which are vital for our overall well-being and the sustainability of our community. I'm also very concerned regarding the property values of the homes in the vicinity. Additionally, I urge you to consider the voices of the residents who will be directly impacted by this decision. There has been little consultation or public input into this rezoning proposal, and many residents feel their concerns are being disregarded. Transparent and inclusive process is crucial to ensuring that any zoning reflects the values and needs of the community. In light of these concerns, I respectfully request that the zoning change be reconsidered and that alternative solutions be explored that protect both the interests of current residents and the long-term sustainability of the area. I believe we can work together to create a solution that balances the needs of industrial development with the health and safety of the people who live in this community. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I look forward to hearing back from you and participating in further discussions about this important issue. We go so this is the area we are wanting to rezone. It is adjacent to current M1 zoning. The red at the very bottom, the large area, that is DFA. That is also owned by the city. And then as for concerns with being able to potentially develop it as a residential, if the city were to ever replat it and decide to sell it, even as an M2, that can be developed as an R1 or an R2. So it can still be developed for residential. Our zoning is whatever is allowed in R1 is allowed in R2, so on and so forth. So, and then at this time, the city is not planning to develop anything. The only development we have in the works right now is a new animal shelter that's going by the senior center. So this zone change is purely to make us in compliance with our own ordinances for what we are housing at the industrial complex.
What is the orange spot inside the yellow spot?
So this zoning map may or may not even be all correct. The orange spot is R2. And from what we found this afternoon, we've been trying to gather records of when this was annexed in, when it was zoned, and portions of this property are already zoned as M1 or M2, but we are not able to tell which ones because the way that they combined it, those are all different legal descriptions. So this would make it all into one
zone.
All of your buildings are to the right of that little white line, that little half line
Yeah.
along Industrial Park. There's nothing to the west of that line. It's all vacant land. Is that correct?
Yeah.
My deal is, I can understand it being industrial on a, when you have it on an industrial drive. But I don't know that you need to, I think you need a survey, and you need to survey that part out and make that industrial part from that little black line straight down into the east, and that make that M1 or M2. But leave the rest of it residential, because you're still up against the Portales Country Club. And I know in the past that people, it's not on that map, have tried to buy R 31929 or whatever to put houses out there, because it is a great place to put houses. But they couldn't get anything done because of I don't know, working with the city to get a road or whatever. But I don't see the need to have the whole thing an M2, in my opinion. And I guess that's why I'm on here. It's my opinion.
I agree.
So your recommendation is to do everything that's there, like the old airport, the senior center, the retention ponds, and like the walking trail, have those zones separately from all that? Was that, just so I understood the
What you were
recommendation?
saying.
What am I, okay, say that again.
All right, so your recommendation, like on the, how the left doesn't have any development?
Yes, it's from
We
that
want
line, that
all-
black line down, you know, where we got that little thing,
Okay,
comes straight down. And however, we can do it crooked, because we like crooked roads, don't we, people? And make that an M2. And I have no problems with that, because that's North Industrial Drive. But you get over here on a country club road, and a country club where hopefully we can water it and it has green grass. That's more prime property. And yeah, and you could do, you could sell it off. If the city doesn't want it, they can sell it off for residential development, and they could do something for that piece of property. But I do not see the whole thing needing to be an M2.
Would you
I-
have to go down that far? Could you stop halfway where the
Well, when
retention pond or the softball complex?
Well, I have a,
all the way down.
well, I have a question. The very southern part that borders Roosevelt Road 6, the old runway, does the city not store gravel and some other material out there?
We do, we call it the boneyard. So they do have some runoff. I'm not 100% sure what there, but there's some building material and some storage there.
See, I would include that as well.
I think the boneyard needs to be moved. Yeah, I think the boneyard, I mean, it's on Roosevelt County Road 6. Why have a boneyard right there? And if they've got that in, if she puts that picture back up with the red in it, that's also, see, you're right up against industrial stuff anyway.
But that's M1. And they're saying M1 is acceptable too for everything that's yellow.
Right, right. So,
And-
but
and
she's
if
wanting to
you
go
put-
in too, but that's why we can go straight down. I still say, and you know, I wouldn't do that little boneyard thing.
All right, but here we go with more zones. To me, if we can do it all M1, you can still build residential houses,
No,
but it's all one zone.
no, you don't want to. You don't want to build residential houses
But
where
you
it wants.
then you can rezone it.
No need to do it. Strike it off right now. And make that part an M1 or 2. I don't care which way you want it. Look, the rest of it a residential part. And let's do it right, people. I'm tired of this town doing something over and over and over again and not getting it right the
I
first
think
time.
Mr. Moyer.
So if we don't approve an M2, or M1 or M2 for that area, and I'm not saying we can't replat, but all the way down with all of our industrial stuff, we would have to cease operations, basically. We have nowhere else to put, not to mention putting a building, new buildings and.
You're not using anything to the west.
Correct. That, and if we replat, that's fine. It would still be an R1 right next to, right against an industrial area. But we have no plans to develop that area at all.
Well, I understand what those people are saying that have already built out there. And I wouldn't want that back behind me either. So what I'm saying is, I think you need to replat it. Because I don't think I don't want it to be an M1 or MR all the way to the country club.
You would still
No.
have a residential area against the industrial area though.
But not against the country club. Correct? Not against the country club.
Correct. But
Okay.
if we were to still sell off for development, the backside of
And they would know that up front. They won't, you're again hitting people that's already built houses and wanting to change something that they thought was an R1 and you want to change it to manufacturing in their backyard. Don't do it. Don't do it.
and I'm not saying we're trying to do like horrible thing. What I'm saying, there's a lot of new people in a lot of new positions, and we're finding a lot of things that weren't done correctly. And
Correct.
we are fixing those mistakes.
Okay, well, let's not make another.
I'm not trying to.
Okay.
I'm not
let's
trying to.
make another. You have to go up there.
No, let's open, if anyone wants to get up.
I'm Charlotte Barnard. You can use your right hand. You swear or affirm that you will testify truthfully the life and truth. I do. What my concern is, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with exactly what Charlotte is talking about, but I live right in that area. We're wondering about the dog pound. Everybody knows where the dog pound is. Okay, they have told us they're gonna move the dog pound, put a new dog pound, whatever, right? By the senior citizens or behind the scenes. Okay, we live right there. Them dogs bark all day, they bark all night. They're not barking, they're howling. It's the biggest nuisance you've ever seen. And that's 24 hours a day. Is there anything to do about that?
Not right here today.
Are they gonna build the dog pound at the city behind the senior citizens there?
I can answer that, yes.
Why? Don't you think about the people that live right at it? And you work and they're constantly up all night long, the dogs barking and howling, and they're just awful. And besides that, the dogs are running everything. There are dogs everywhere out there.
Yes, ma'am. That was one of the only locations that had the utilities needed, for the grant. So the construction's already been scheduled. So the dog pound has already been approved to go there.
Thank you.
It did come before the boards.
Yeah,
Yes,
It
did go to
did come
city
before the
council.
boards.
We didn't know about it.
yeah. You can't do anything about it today.
None of us knew about it. Later on, can we do anything about it?
I don't know. You'll have to go talk to them.
Please state your name, please. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that you will testify truthfully the life and truth. Yes.
I'm a fairly new resident to Portales. I live in this particular area. I can understand when you say previously a lot of things happened that shouldn't have, and now you're trying to correct it. Ms. Bennett, I appreciate what you said in trying to kind of maintain part of that R1 piece. My concern, right, in the short amount of time that I've lived here, I've seen the city sell their properties and not maintain very well their properties. Right, so if you're not already meeting ordinances and they haven't been, right, you can say that there's no plan to develop or, nothing else, but it's also not a guarantee. So if it becomes an M1, then it could become whatever. And at that point, we don't have a voice or a choice, right? And when I hear that a grant is already approved and applied for, but yet is it even available to go up if it doesn't change, right? So it seems like lots of stuff are happening before you're even in a place to move forward. And then, you know, we're feeling bullied because you already have grant funding, which I don't think is necessarily fair. And I could not understand the entire history, right, and process that's already happened, because again, I haven't lived here very long. But just the ambiguity and the statement of there's no plans doesn't mean it's not a guarantee. And I don't feel like it's fair to ask to make it all available when really where you want to be is a small section. So, you know, if that's the only place to get stuff, I'm super close to. I don't hear the dogs, but I hear my neighbor's dogs all the time, and that's obnoxious. I couldn't imagine a whole bunch more. But I do think minimizing, if that's the only place that you can do it, minimizing the access to our uncertainty, really. Or creating a space that isn't gonna affect everybody that lives around it.
Thank you.
You and I are on here.
I was sorry, I did not get my letter in time, but I was thoroughly opposed to this zoning change. I own property in that area by the golf course. We bought it with the intention that someday we might retire and build a home out there in Buffalo. I just ask you to oppose this deal. I don't think it's needed. It looks to me like a solution in search of a problem. And it's not what we need to be there. Thank you.
Patty Heflin. Raise your right hand. Will you just swear or affirm that you will support the Yes. Good evening. I live on Roosevelt Road View. I've lived there for 35 years. I have quite a bit of property there. And if you want to rezone this, I'm with Ms. Bennett on this. Rezone the little part there where industrial road, the softball complex, the maintenance department out there at the city, all of that, all the walking trail, you rezone that to an M1, M2, but you leave the rest of the property alone. I mean, there's so much property that's, what is it, 40 acres?
No, I don't know.
40 acres, probably at least 45 acres out there behind that softball complex going to the country club. I mean, if we say, okay, you guys go ahead and rezone all of that. We don't have a choice. If you want to bring something in, we've already said, okay, you guys do whatever you want to. We can't go back and say, you need to put that back to residential.
I agree. I agree.
I'm not willing to take that chance. I'm not gonna decrease my property so that the city can get their grants to build adoption. So, I'm sorry, but I don't want to reduce my property value, and I have quite a bit of property there. My family has quite a bit of property there. They don't want that either. So, I really suggest you guys really think about this, because you don't live out there. We live out there. And please don't change that to M2.
Kelly, can I get some clarification, please? Whenever we're talking about heavy machinery zones, It is for like the trucks for the dumpsters and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yes, so
So I need to know, because I know that the dog thing is coming up a lot
Right.
today. The dog, it's gonna happen. It doesn't have to be under a manufacturer zone, correct?
no, so that already happening, this was in the works, last year sometime, it might have been early this year. We realized that the airport that we currently use was never, when it was annexed, it was never zoned correctly. And we
So-
said, hey, so we did that zoning, so let's look and see what else hasn't been zoned correctly that needs to be modified without a compliance. And this one popped up. That was before the grant was even started. It just got put on the back burner and brought it to her now. But with this is approved or denied, the grant is still there, and the construction still moves forward.
But I just need it clarified that the only reason why we're going to a M1 or M2, which I'm
Yes.
against a M2
Is,
and
yes,
more, is just to get in compliance with where we have our heavy machinery.
yes, so
Which
your
is
M-
in the hangar right now.
Correct, so your M2, it covers equipment yards and warehouses, and so in the. Where the old airport is where all of our equipment yard is for the city, it's for the trash trucks, the dumpsters. Our sweepers, a lot of our fleet is kept there, and then. We also have. The senior center, which could be, commercial, and as I said, they've got the construction. Yard, boneyard, they have that as well. And then I believe there's a retention pond that's part of the reuse system that is also there. That's why we did as an M2, because a retention pond from a reuse system isn't covered in our ordinance, so we just weren't sure what to put it under. But yes, I do believe in M1, which would be light manufacturing versus heavy manufacturing, could cover that whole section.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You raise your hand, you swear or affirm that you will testify to the whole year in the penalty of law. Okay.
Well, I'm a little confused. Because I own property on Rogers Road. And I'm at the end of the road and I joined city property. And I did not get a letter. Is there some reason for that?
I don't know, Kelly.
That I didn't know about it in time to really investigate?
That's a good question.
So we only send letters to people within 100 feet. I believe you're right. Here, and so this one is owned by Mr. Ledbetter, I believe, and then this is your property. So that property is not within the 100 feet of township. So I did not send her.
And I would like to say, my family farmed this area that you're talking about for many years. We're very familiar with it. And, I know that none of you would want to look out your front door facing this property and see manufacturing there. You would expect to see houses, but you would not expect to see manufacturing out there. And so I think what Mrs. Bennett has suggested would be good. I doubt that anybody would accept that, but please don't take that away from us. I have family on both roads. And I have 2 lots and then I have a house on that road. And it's gonna devalue my property. There's no doubt about it. Should my children decide to build a house on that lot, which is very good possibility, they're not gonna wanna look out and manufacturing like that. So I ask you to just take all of it into consideration.
Thank you.
Please state your name. Please raise your right hand. Will you swear or affirm that you will testify truthfully the honest and truthfully?
2056 and 2060, which I believe is right up against the city property and the country club. We're at that corner. Okay, and I wouldn't want any development in that area. We've already got the field across from us to the south. Where EFA has been putting their waste in that field.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
We've had to deal with that throughout many years of the stand coming from that place, which in my mind. Depreciates value in that area. Who would want to move into a stinky area, you know? In my book, it depreciates a lot of things. My dad bought that 30, 40 years ago, and it didn't come to play until industrial came into what he started to mitigate. But we're right at this corner up against the city, which recently I think this little square here is their electrical service that they put in. And they put their service road right next to our property. Which is okay, but right here is where we reside. And I really want that to stay as it is. If you could. Which we can do something about the stench. That's city property. Okay. Thank you.
Kelly,
Yes.
is there anything else that the city can do without changing the zoning? Is there a variant that we can have the city do? Is there kind of like an easement, just like our last previous thing, where the cities has and is getting an easement for the residents to have their property on city? Is there something that we can do that will get us into par without having to change it into a zone? An R1 or M1 or M2? Is there a variant or anything like that?
We could definitely apply for them. They're pretty specific. So the variants would probably have to be renewed pretty often for some small changes. So if we said, hey, we're using this as, let's say, an equipment warehouse. And then we're like, oh, well, we're gonna put something else in that little area. We'll have to come back and update all the variances with you guys. I'd really recommend the zone change. It just brings us to compliance a bit neater. But if that's something you recommend, we can bring that to council and see if they would accept variances for all the uses in that area.
Me personally, I think a variant would be more sufficient than changing it into an M1 or an M2. I know it may be a little bit more paperwork, but we keep the peace between the citizens who live there, reside there, and they have the value of their homes still stay the same, but the city is still in compliance with the variant.
It's something we can definitely, it's something we've never done before. You can definitely recommend it. Because
My recommendation would be for y'all to come back with the replat, a survey. And you can look at all of our drawings up here that we've been all drawing on here and come back and keep your industrial park on Industrial Avenue, which is paved, which is awesome. You can get in and out with no problems. Keep the rest of it and even keep the little orange box R1. That gives the city the opportunity, if they want to sell that property as prime real estate land. And if we get the water thing fixed out where people want to come back here and live and we have water, then you can make money that way. Because I don't think you need all of that as an M1 or an M2. And so I think you've got plenty of land and you can either go straight down from where that little, I guess that's a road, white line, and come down, or you can come over where the orange box is, which you said some kind of thing you showed up with the R1 or R2, and come straight down and do that. And everything to the east, make it an M1 or an M2, nobody would complain, keep the at rest as a residential. Yes. And then everybody's gonna be happy. And you got it done for one time. And that gives the city opportunity for resale. And that's better, that's more money in your pocket than anything else. And if the city is hurting as bad as I think it does, they might want to do that.
yeah, if you'd like to recommend it, that is definitely a very feasible thing. Your recommendation can just be do the replat. We take that recommendation to council, and if they accept it, we can have the replat done after based on your recommendation and approval.
Here's my concern. if we make the entire property M1 or M2, yes, you can build a house there. But if we split it, make the east side the M1, M2, the west side, leave it as an R1, you can't go to an R1 and put manufacturing in, correct?
Correct.
So if we needed to expand, we would have to come back, yes.
I'm sorry?
If we needed to expand, we would have to come back.
Or if we sold the property and someone wanted to put a non-residential on a residential on the west side that we left, then yes, they'd have to get a variance or request a zone change for council.
Jeanette McCormick. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that you will testify to the truth, the truth, and the truth. I will.
My question is this. I own a little white area next to Industrial Drive. This line you're talking about coming straight down, how will that affect my zone?
You're like the little white box at the top.
Yes.
That will you, your county, it won't affect your zoning whatsoever. But the county does not have zoning, so.
Yes, well, you always thought we were in the county, these letters, we thought, we got annexed.
Yeah, we just sent it to you because you're within 100 feet,
Okay.
so you can have that information too.
So you're in the county? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Industrial complex, it's in the city?
Yeah, so she's that little white box
Okay.
right at the very top right. So she's county, everything colored to city.
Yeah.
We're good. These are all county.
Well, then if I'm county, why don't I have, or if I'm city? Why don't I have city water and city sewer? and-
Your county, Miss Patty.
You're in the
I
county.
know I'm county, that's what I'm saying, you're saying that everything in that yellow box is city,
Right.
I'm right there next to the city.
But you're
Yeah,
out.
you're
But you're out.
about, you're like
You're
county
in the county.
corner. So you are in the county.
You got county, do you have county water?
Yeah, I have county water.
Well,
Yeah.
same thing.
And city sewer, and I have city sewer, and now I don't have city sewer.
Well, yeah.
That happened to a few people there.
Okay, nope.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will testify truthfully, the truth, and the truth?
I probably own more property.
Okay.
Inside. than- Pardon me. I probably own more property inside this yellow box than anyone else in here. My daughter and I also own some lots. It's her plan to retire from the Air Force and move back. Build a home on the properties that I was raised on. Now, you're wanting to put something that will prevent her from walking out her front door and seeing something pleasant. I understand that what there is there now is vacant land. But when I called to talk to this love lady, I said, then if you change it to this M2, you can put anything that you want to there. And she said, yep. Now that sounds to me like that would be the end of it. Nobody would have to come back and say, oh, well, we would like to put so-and-so there. How do you feel about it? It would make no difference as to how we felt about it then. So I think that Mrs. Bennett's solution, while it may not be perfect, it's better than doing the whole thing. So I would suggest that we replat it.
Thank you. Yeah. I think I'll entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to go out of public hearing, so I will entertain a motion for a recommendation to the city council.
I will make a motion that I recommend that the city council come back with a replat of this property. I am not in favor of getting them in the M2 zone at this time. Come back.
I second the motion.
So I have a motion. Can we, you want to amend something?
Can we go a little deeper in that?
Yeah.
That
Well, they need to replat it, I mean, and keep it on. Okay, let me amend it. I mean, I'm not going to approve an M2 or M1. They need to come back with a replat along Industrial Drive. You can look at our paperwork we've got, you know, whatever you want. But I don't think you should go
Basically the eastern third.
the eastern, yeah,
That'd be the third.
yeah, of the property. And you're welcome to all of our drawings and what we think up here. But, because like you pointed out, we've got a problem that you just found out today about that little orange spot. So, hey, let's do a little more investigating. Let's do a little more work and let's see what we can do. So however you want to write that down in a motion, go for it.
So for clarification, you don't want us to take the recommendation to city council that we only do the third, you prefer it to come back here as a replat first for your approval? Or would you like us to move forward with the recommendation of the side you highlight going as an M1 or M2?
I do not recommend that we do the whole property as a M1 or M2. I recommend that the city council come back and look at the east third of the property along Industrial Drive.
Perfect.
I don't even want you to go up to, I don't even want you to go to New Mexico 206. Okay.
Yes, I'll second it again.
And my only clarification is, are we including the boneyard area? That has the material construction, that little weird tail?
No,
Perfect.
no, the boneyard is left out of that in the drawings.
Okay.
In case you want our clarification, here's our drawings.
Everything else remains on.
No, I don't like his recommendation.
Because this would include all
That is not my recommendation at all. I do not agree with Mr. Moyer at all. So my drawing is what I want and not Mr. Moyer.
Yeah, that's what, that, and I think that was the motion Beverly made.
I made this motion. I did not make
Right,
Mr. Moyer.
this one here.
Yes, yeah,
Straight down.
straight down, going that way.
We'll come grab yours and that will be, we put up for city council.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yeah,
Can't believe.
I wrote only left, so we'll get that in there.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Ms. Fox,
Yes,
So that's our recommendation that we'll go to
Here's
city,
my two drawings to add to his and you can take them back to him.
to the council.
Here's his drawing, you can take that back to him.
So,
Here's everybody else's drawings. Take them back.
okay, item E. Oh,
Okay,
at
you're
this
welcome.
time, I will excuse Ms. Baca. We still have a quorum. 3, 4, yes.
Mhm.
No, because this is about her. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so item. What's actually D, it's E on here.
E on the S, yeah.
Yeah. Public hearing for resolution PC number 2024-2025-33. Oh, I am reading the wrong one. E, public resolution 2024-2025-34. A resolution providing for a vacation of right of way of 110.18 feet of a platted but undeveloped road known as East Nogale Street, submitted by Roberto and Maverni Abaca. I will entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. We are in public hearing. This is lovely.
Vacation of right of way, specifically this area in the yellow. This portion of the red was previously vacated. Because applicants were already paying taxes on that portion. When they bought the property, they were told it had already been vacated. It wasn't, so they got that all straightened out. Now they're looking to vacate the portion that they've been using as access to their property.
Oh.
Now that they also own this property. We go next to. I published this application in the Eastern Commune on August 4. Said 4 certified letters to property owners. Had no response to any of those. State certified letters to utilities. At this time, only one public utility would require easement. So this is the vacation plat that was submitted. The area for vacation is 110.18 by 30 feet wide, so they'd only be vacating their one portion of the road on their side. And as I said, one utility, which I'm working with Ms. Baca to get that sorted out with them, so they are in the process of getting that. P&D just recommended that since that would now cut off the access to the main roadway, that they replat it. So they are also working on combining those lots so that they would have the access. And with that, that's all I have.
You like to speak?
Before you walk up.
Do you mind if I give you an updated map of?
Oh, that'd be great.
So the one that is in has a house that is on there. There is no house on that lot that we purchased.
I was gonna ask you about this right here. What is that? And I'm seeing.
So this was a 60-foot platted road right here. And so this here is 30 feet that goes in our side. And then this here is our neighbor's house. It's their trailer house. But it's back there. Okay,
Yeah, just looked, funny because it was over it,
yeah,
but
that one is.
this one shows up a little better. Like, can you get an easement to have someone's house?
When we first came and got our property lines corrected, it was my husband and I, whenever we came into purchase this property. It's just like Miss Laura said, we were paying taxes because it already showed that those roads were vacated. So everybody has built up on those roads. They are fenced off and everything else like that. And whenever we came in the first time to get that vacated, the people that own the property that we just purchased were against it. And so now that we purchased it, we are wanting that vacated because that actually has our utilities, our sewer, our electric, and our gas, as well as our insurance. So what we're wanting to do is go ahead and get that whole thing vacated so that remains our whole property. We are in the process, like Ms. Laura said, to get an easement for the electrical line because there are 2 poles that are in that property that we'll have to get an easement to, but we are wanting to combine both of these lots. We're not wanting to keep them separated.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be infringing on anybody there except for ourselves? If it wasn't vacated.
I like how the property line goes. You just have to do one little jog in the back,
Yeah,
because nothing can be perfectly straight.
no, or, you know, this is
Yeah.
littler than spider, yeah, it's just.
And a math teacher, that kind of drives you crazy. Any other questions, comments? I will entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to go out of public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, we're back in regular session. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Or
Second.
we have a motion to approve and a second. Call the roll, please.
Bennett,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Walden,
Yes.
Abstaining.
Yes.
Approved, and we'll go to the city.
December 17th.
December 17th. Okay, any other business?
None from staff.
What here, anything? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion and a
Second.
second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.